Welcome to Behind the Wheel, a Toledo Jeep Fest original podcast. Today I'm here with my friend Matt Sapara with Mercy Health. They are the title sponsor of Toledo Jeep Fest, and they have been since the beginning, and we're going to talk about that and so much more. Matt, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So let's talk about Mercy from the beginning. Do you remember what it was like to get that first phone call to say, we're going to do a Jeep Fest celebrating 75 years, and your reaction was obviously positive, and the rest is history, but tell me about that.
I remember where I was exactly when the call came. I know that there was a meeting at Government Center, and I got the phone call asking about perhaps Mercy's interest in being the sponsor to that. And of course, I have a personal relationship with, with the site where the Jeeps were built.
Yeah.
But as we started talking through it, it was very natural. Mercy's been in the community for a very long time, as has Jeep. We share a lot of the same values. We're very hardworking. We have connections to the community, so we were really, really excited about it. When I went and talked to the leadership about, becoming involved in the event, there was no pushback at all. It was really, really exciting. We're so glad to be part of it from the get-go.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, and I want to unpack that a little bit because you said 5 things that I want to come back to. Sure. But one thing for me is that, and this has always been very obvious to me, is the health of a Toledo, Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan family often has to do with the money they make and bring home and putting food on the table and things like that. But also the literal health of those people really matters. And so when you think about workforce and gainful employment, and then you think about that family's health, I mean, what could be more important? So we're two ends of the same equation, absolutely. I feel like.
Absolutely.
And it's great to celebrate that.
For sure. And so statistically, we know that when people are economically successful, they have that living wage, they know that they have better health outcomes, They pay more attention to their health. It certainly shouldn't forget about the more underserved portion of our community, but that is something that we focus on at Mercy for sure.
Yeah. So you have a long history with Jeep, and you've helped create an amazing preservation of the Willys smokestack and the Dana driveline plan and that whole area. And there's a lot of history to that. And I love to see Dana thriving in this community. We all do, putting axles on Jeeps for over 85 years. And there's so much there. But before you were at Mercy, you were at the Port Authority. And that was a really significant piece that now that we're talking 10, 15 years later, not everybody knows that story. So will you share some about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So I think it was about 2007. We recognized that there were so many people that drove by that vacant site where they built these Jeeps for all of these years.
Yeah.
And we know that when people drive through our community, oftentimes they remember the community by that vacancy, by the, just the overgrownness of that site at the time.
Yeah.
And we'd heard at that time that the precursor to Stellantis was really interested in storing flatbed trucks out there. So basically there's a 111-acre site out there. We have these 3 amazing smokestacks that would be surrounded by flatbed trucks. So a number of the community leaders got together and talked about how can we acquire the site? How can we remediate the site? Because remember, it was an automotive site where there was heavily contaminated.
It was a little bit of a mess.
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely horrible. There's all kinds of stories behind that.
Okay.
And so a number of the leaders got together and started talking about what it could be. And I was very fortunate at the time at the Port Authority where I was tasked with going ahead and leading that charge and how to redevelop that site. And so the first thing was, well, where do we get the funds, right? So it's not just a matter of acquiring the property, but it's what do you do when you get the property?
Yeah.
Acquiring it was really easy.
Okay.
Jeep really wanted to get rid of the site. And for obvious reasons, right? There was contamination there. It was a blighted site. They really didn't have a need for it logistically. So that was easy. But the second domino was really trying to figure out where we get the money from to remediate it. And you have to remember, again, there was cars built on that site for almost 100 years. And those contaminants in that soil it was heavy. It really was. So we were very fortunate. We worked with the state of Ohio, the federal government. Congresswoman Capter was the first domino that brought almost $3 million to that site. And I think oftentimes people forget about that. There's a lot of folks that take victory laps around the development of that site, and they should.
Yeah.
I'll always remember the call I got from Steve Kadich, the chief of staff for Congresswoman Capter, saying, Matt, I've got great news. I'm like, Steve, let me hear it. I can always use good news. And he said, well, I think it was $2.7 or $2.9 million that the Congresswoman brought into the community for us to use specifically on that site. So we used that pot of money. We used money from the Port Authority. We used money from the city and basically put together a plan. And we went out there and we cleaned that site up. And
incredible.
I remember being out there every day. It was shocking to me when I would take our board members out there from the Port Authority. We had a little Jeep Liberty at the time. And no one wanted to get out of the Jeep Liberty for fear of what was bubbling out of the ground that particular day. It's a true story. And, we were able to get all that cleared out. And it was an amazing process. We did that. And now, we drive by that, and there's 1,700 living wage jobs there. And it's just amazing. But it speaks to the intestinal fortitude, I think, that our community had at that point, where we had a vision, we went out and figured out how to implement it. And all along the way through that process, I was out there almost every day on the site, and we had what I would refer to as the old timers, of people that would come out and just be curious about what was going on at the site. They had worked there for literally an entire generation.
People are so invested.
Oh my gosh, absolutely! And that was just the highlight of my career. I look back on that, at least from a public economic development perspective, and I love those conversations. I had one gentleman come and say, there's crates from World War II that are buried here in the soil, and they didn't send these Jeeps over to, the European theater, the Pacific theater. They created them up. And when the war was over, there was 2 dozen crates that they weren't going to put on flatbeds to get them out to whatever they were going to send them, but they buried them in the ground somewhere. We spent that entire portion of our time out there looking for those darn crates. We never did, but they were out there somewhere.
The lore.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you should be really proud, because the angels absolutely sing when you look over there and see everything that's going on. And it's such a prolific area now. When I think about the Toledo Assembly Complex and Mobis and KUKA and Dana, all those companies out there thriving, it's really great to see.
Yeah, we were so fortunate. And it's just all the dominoes, all the stars aligned for us. So we were able to get the money. We redeveloped the site. We had a developer, Ed Harmon, came to us, and we started talking with him. He started talking about putting up spec buildings that weren't spec for very long. His relationships, as you point out, with Dana and others, they just gravitated toward the site. And I think the highlight of all of that is we redeveloped the site and kind of rethought how we do economic development in the community. We always had this feeling about how we preserve some portion of the site. And there were 3 smokestacks there. So 2 of them were structurally just not in the best shape. They had to come down. The third one was in really, really good shape. So, working with our leadership team, working with our elected officials, our board for sure, we thought the idea, we're going to preserve this last one. And there's a plaque on the bottom of that sign. Recognize all the men and women that worked so hard on that site. I mean, for literally decades and decades and decades. And that's something that I still drive by today with this great sense of pride. And again, not so much for my contribution, but for the contribution of all those men and women that are they're no longer with us, but they are the unsung heroes in that story.
100%. And speaking of that, that's a really good segue to talk about the fact that so many people come to Toledo Jeep Fest and they make their trek over to the Jeep letters, the iconic Jeep letters that I heard just got a facelift. They go to the Willys smokestack and they want to know the history of Jeep in this community, because they understand that Toledo is the home of the Jeep, where Jeeps roll off the line every day. And, we're so glad that over 6,000 people are employed at TAC right now, not to mention all the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers. So that's amazing. And we love that Jeep Fest is a place that can be celebrated. But also you mentioned something about Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur and so many elected officials that really support Toledo Jeep Fest and our mission to educate folks, to remind them of the history, to continue to look forward and celebrate our past. We have our official program at 4:00 on Saturday, and we'll hear some proclamations and maybe a declaration of Jeep Fest week from the mayor. But talk to us about how important it is to have that support from different folks, whether you're trying to do a project like that or whether you're trying to celebrate and do a festive event like Toledo Jeep Fest. I mean, it really does take a village.
Oh my gosh, absolutely it does. And it's so much easier when the people that are involved are not really into the credit for it. They just want to see the success of the event. There are so many unsung heroes with just helping aggregate the resources needed to redevelop that site.
Right.
Literally, we could talk for an hour about all the people that stepped up that didn't need to, but they did. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the vision. The vision was to redevelop that site, was to celebrate our community. That's what we do here in Northwest Ohio. We build things. We build the Jeep. And that is something that is such an easy discussion to have, whether it's our elected official, whether it's any leader in the community. Everyone gravitates towards that. And it's just the truth. And again, it's just such a powerful statement. And I can go back to so many meetings, so many events that we had there that just gravitate around that simple concept. This was us celebrating our roots. And this is something that I hope 100 years from now that there's, a blurb about all the work that those incredible people did to redevelop that site.
Yes. Well, we try and celebrate them every year with Jeep Fest for this weekend, but around the year via social media and telling stories in the press and things like that. So more to come on that. We're going into Toledo Jeep Fest season, as it were. But something you said reminded me that I really want to talk about the things that Mercy does to make Jeep Fest better and enrich it, and doesn't really ask, for credit or to be promoted about these things. But these are really important things that help me from a logistical standpoint, like EMS services and enriching activities for the 100,000 people that come to Toledo Jeep Fest with the Mercy Healthcare Corner and things like that. So can you talk about some ways that Mercy participates that aren't necessarily super obvious, but really help me?
Absolutely happy to. So the reality of it is that anytime you have that aggregation of 100,000 people, it's a great opportunity to talk about health. And it's a great opportunity for us to bring them together. As you point out, our healthcare corner, they're going to be doing glucose testing and other services. Originally, when we first started talking about this 10 years ago, wasn't really sure how that would play out.
Yeah.
Now, boy, there are just people that will go there, and it's become acceptable. And
Yes.
it might not have been 10 years ago, but it is today. And it's incredible because even the most basic screening can have important impacts on people's lives. And people,
Right.
we take our health for granted every day. I know I do.
Yeah.
And combine that with our EMS team. They're out there helping support the event. Anytime you bring 100,000 people together over those, that period of time, you have heat, you have all kinds of other issues.
Yes.
They're out there to make sure that they protect the public. They do a great job. And
Yes.
and to be honest with you, they are a force multiplier with Toledo Fire. And it's
Yeah.
just it's a really a testament to the camaraderie that group has working together to make this event such a success in the community.
Yeah, I mean, last year I think we had 40 people from Mercy volunteering their time that were part of the, helping make sure the kids zone ran properly and helping be ambassadors and helping check wristbands, to go have a beer in the beer garden. So we really appreciate the dynamic partnership that we have with Mercy.
Well, we're so fortunate. And that's a whole nother discussion. Again, this is just much more than an event. And not that all events aren't important,
Yeah.
but this is something special. It really is because it celebrates our roots. And again, our community, at Mercy, they really want to come out and help support that in any form or fashion, whether it's our paramedics, our EMTs,
Yeah.
whether it's our volunteers, whether it's the clinicians that are working in the healthcare corner. Everybody wants to be a part of this. This is a very easy discussion to have, and we're looking for that support.
Oh, that's awesome. And you can feel that. And my team can really feel that energy and enthusiasm. And I don't want to take that for granted. It really is special. Your folks at Mercy are amazing. Matt, so as you mentioned, you guys have been in the community for a really long time. And this year we're celebrating 85 years of Jeep and 250 years celebrating America. And we have a lot of bells and whistles up our sleeve with the drone show and a patriotic flyover. But talk to me a little bit about Mercy and your longevity in the community, because you're not the only one that's celebrating a milestone year, but certainly have one of the longest histories.
Sure. So more than 150 years ago, the Grey Nuns were invited into the community, probably one of the more desperate times our community's ever experienced. There was a cholera outbreak. There were people dying left and right, and they were invited into the community to help support those families. Moms, dads were passing away. There was a huge orphan population. So the Grey Nuns came into the community and helped support those families. And there are stories that I've read about where you have these nuns carrying people between first, second, third floor with no elevators on their backs to get them to the right spot. And that was one of the things that just really resonated with me when I hear about those stories, because again, that's us.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes in our community, we're going to get it done, whether it's on an assembly line, whether it's the Grey Nuns that are carrying people on their backs to get them where they need to go.
Yes.
And that tradition has been carried on, even to today. We are just so focused on the health of our community and making sure that we're doing the right thing and making sure that all members of our community are valued and their health is taken care of. So we've been here for a very long time. We plan on being here for a very long time in the future. And again, excited to be part of that community.
Yeah, I mean, 85 years of Jeep. It's incredible to think about the decades of history. And what you're talking about is that grittiness of Toledoans and of people in Northwest Ohio. And, that extends, far beyond, I guess, this radius, right? But it's really something special. And I think people feel that when they come to Toledo Jeep Fest. Do you have a favorite moment from a Toledo Jeep Fest of the past? Or are you looking forward to one special moment this year?
Sure. So I love the parade. I really do. Seeing all the Jeeps lined up and just the camaraderie. In a world where we live in today, to have all these people come together from all walks of life and celebrate one common thing. And then you see them lining up in the Jeep line with 1,400 Jeeps. we can't get 1,400 people to do anything today. To do that for that amount of time is just something that's so special with me and resonates.
Yeah,
and I remember
same.
standing out there last year, just thinking about, my gosh, if we could just take this concept and bottle it and get it to the rest of the country, our problems would be solved. They really would. But that's my favorite part of the event. I love seeing that parade, seeing just the diversity of the people that come here, the diversity of their Jeeps, what each Jeep means to them as they celebrate their specific vehicle.
You can almost see it on people's faces when the parade rolls by. Like, we make these here. It's such an iconic brand. It's so amazing to see all these unique Jeeps roll by, and then to know that we built them.
Absolutely. Last year I was standing at the parade and they were doing their thing, and there was this older gentleman standing next to me, and he just happened to mention to me that he was the one that put the passenger door on the Jeep that went by. And we talked about for almost a half hour about passenger doors on Jeeps and just how difficult it is. And I just thought it was the greatest thing, the pride in that man's voice and how he did that. That really resonated with me. I thought that was the most incredible story ever.
Well, it's funny because people say that they love to come to Jeep Fest, and they go to other events, in Bantam and Smoky Mountain and Moab, and they these folks go all over the place, but they love to come to Toledo Jeep Fest because they get to talk to real people who worked on these Jeeps, and they have really cool stories about working on the line or painting Jeeps at Kuka or making the chassis at Mobis, or, they have all of these stories. And they still come to volunteer at Jeep Fest. And so you can find these folks all over at Jeep Fest that would love to talk to you and tell you stories. And so that's what makes Toledo Jeep Fest different, is the people, really.
It is. So these events happen all over the place, but what makes us different is exactly that. For those people to come out from our community and talk about that pride, we just don't see that anywhere else. It's the most incredible thing. Again, I wish I could bottle it up and sell it, because people, it just resonates with our community. It's just amazing. It really is.
So we started talking about, we went back a little bit and talked about some of your projects that, had led to where we are today. But now I want to talk a little bit about the future.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, including myself, have this idea that Jeep Fest is an amazing celebration right now, but how can we make it bigger and better? And how can we facilitate important conversations about economic development and workforce and education and where those things kind of intersect?
Sure.
So how can we take it to the next level and maybe have a call to action for some groups? I mean, I've been talking to Jobs Ohio about this a little bit. I've been talking to the Toledo Community Foundation about it. You and I have talked about it. There are a lot of conversations happening about how do we elevate to bring together educators and HR folks and workforce folks to really make sure we are connecting the dots between the workforce of the future and what's
Absolutely.
next.
So we're at a crossroads, right? We really are. We have this economy that is, heading in one direction, an older economy in various parts of the country that's headed in a different direction. The one common thread through all that, at least from my perspective, is people's ability to work together under a common vision and what that looks like. We see a lot of challenges right now with data centers, and it's a very divisive issue in so many communities. But there is something out there from a development perspective that does work for everyone. And I think so oftentimes that we get frustrated by those difficult conversations that it doesn't lead to the more positive discussions. And I sit, like most of us, and watch the newscasts about, who's going to protest this today and who's going to protest that tomorrow from a development perspective. And I'm a simpleton. I think back to what happened on that Jeep site, and there was no pushback on that whatsoever. And the reason why was because it was so simple. It was so pure, and everyone rallied around it. And had they not, we would have never been able to build what we built there. Economic development in its basic form really is a simple process. To get everyone on the same page, you fund it and you go out and implement it. Yeah. And you create a product that's needed in the community, much like Jeep did, back during, prior to the war. It's a formula that worked then, it's a formula that works now.
Right.
It's about discussions, it's about trust, and it's about building that vision.
Well, I think, and my board kind of thinks we're just starting to really have those conversations. So while we've come so far in 10 years and we are really celebrating the workforce and the amazing iconic vehicle and the people who make it, there's more work to do, and there are more conversations to have, and looking forward into the future about what important conversations we can have as well. We can have a lot of fun and have important conversations at the same time. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I know you're going to be a part of that.
Oh, I hope to be. And again, our best days are ahead of us. That might be very difficult to see today, but our best days are ahead of us. I really believe that.
Yeah, I think so too. So where are you going to be at Toledo Jeep Fest? Kind of wrapping this up, because I know you'll be out there with bells on, and there are a lot of things to do over Jeep Fest weekend.
Gosh,
so
absolutely.
where can we catch you?
So I will be right where the Jeeps start. I'll be at the parade. I'll be at the healthcare corner, and then I'll probably be with our EMS team, just checking on things, and just whatever else comes up.
One of the things I really recommend is going over to the kids zone and checking out our Power Wheels and the kids racing around on these little Power Wheels around Imagination Station. That's always a big hit.
It is. And much credit to you and your board. I think what it's done, not just for the Jeep, but just to bring the community together. And there's something for everyone. This isn't just something for someone that may want to modify a Jeep. There's stuff for kids, there's stuff for young people, for older people. It is incredible that you're able to bring all that together in one event.
Thank you. We've tried to make it as dynamic as possible and free to everyone to come and enjoy. And so it's music to our ears when we hear that it is indeed that. So thanks for the compliment. And thank you so much for Mercy's partnership and your support over the years. We really wouldn't be here without you. And so it means a lot.
Thank you. This is a really easy thing to support. So thank you, Winnie.
Thanks, Matt.
Our official Momentum partner is Toledo Refining Company, fueling Northwest Ohio for more than 130 years, as Jeep celebrates its 85th year right here in Toledo. See you next episode.